truth about this situation is that either A, you guys helped create this type of attitude, or B, this right here was the real attitude of the people that you're talking about the entire time, and you guys just happened to bring it out of them or loosen it.
When I ask a question, don't point at me and don't be disrespectful to me. I'm the mayor of this city, and treat me with the respect I deserve to be treated. I'm speaking to you as an adult. Don't stand in front like you treated someone that's on the plantation that you own.
Question that makes you uncomfortable, you could just weaponize race to shut her down. That's exactly what happened there.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but elderly people sometimes have a problem with hearing. It's the phrase, I'm hard of hearing, basically meaning that I can't really hear. So a lot of times they talk a little bit louder than normal. So saying what he just said to someone that we're finding out now was an 84-year-old Holocaust survivor, yeah, not exactly a good look. What is up, guys? JohnClaymore here. It is the day before the 4th of July. It is going to be a bit of an easy posting period over the next couple of days. Of course, I want everybody to kind of enjoy the 4th, especially seeing how the 4th this year is on a Tuesday. Yeah, very, very weird, you know, and I understand that it's obviously going to happen on weekdays, but you know how it is on weekdays. Just something about it just feels a little bit differently as far as like the workflow, the way life is, cookouts, things like that. There's always better to have it on the weekend, but I understand that a lot of people are off, and I myself am kind of like, you know what, man, why don't you just take it easy the next couple of days? Family comes in, you know, just sit back and relax, get certain topics out there, and of course this is one of them. So Anna Kasparian for a while now, I would say at least the last few months, and I've done a few videos on her, has let's just say I wouldn't say changed her tune, but definitely made some adjustments when it comes to the whole topic of race baiting. So we've got this situation where New York City Mayor Eric Adams decides to answer back, as you guys saw a while ago, to an elderly lady over the rent situation in New York. Now, don't worry, we will get to this here in a second, but that exchange is, let's just put it this way here. That exchange looks bad for multiple reasons. Number one, it looks like somebody is trying to utilize their race to be the victim, but yet at the same time utilize their race for power, and they're doing it at the expense of a woman who is 82 years old, lived in the city of New York for most of her life, and we're finding out is actually Jewish and a Holocaust survivor. She's 82 years old. That means she more than likely was born in 1930 or 1931, depending on her birthday. That's not exactly came out yet, except the year she was born. But the thing is this right here. If she's a Holocaust survivor, chances are she's probably been through the ringer. 1939 to 1945, who knows? Maybe she was an Auschwitz survivor. Maybe she survived Treblinka. Maybe she survived Dachau. Maybe she survived the whole Plaslow camp, the one that was used for the basis of the movie Schindler's List, which, by the way, was a true story. I mean, this woman's obviously felt some heat, and I think the last thing that anybody would want to do is make a statement like this to somebody who, quite frankly, is not white, but yet Jewish. You could say white skin, but definitely Jewish. It's just not a very good look. And obviously, TYT, in a very, very rare instance, but not exactly so much of a rare instance for Anna Kasparian now, decides to call this out.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams implied that an elderly white woman who had an important question to ask about unaffordable rents was speaking to him in a racist manner. In fact, he compared her to a plantation owner after she raised concerns about unaffordable rent. Now, before I show you the video, and stick around for it, I do want to give you the context so you understand where this woman is coming from. She has a legitimate concern, and she is representing the concerns of countless New Yorkers who are concerned about rents increasing. So landlords will be able to increase rent by 3% on 1-year leases. They will also be able to increase rent by 2.75% for the first year on 2-year leases and 3.2% for a second year. The rent increases apply to new leases signed on or after October 1st of 2023. So this has to do with the rent stabilized units in the city. There are about 1 million of them. And there is a board that makes a decision as to how much rent can be increased at any given time. Now, a woman stood up to ask a question about this. She is noticeably frustrated with good reason. This has to do with housing. This has to do with people being able to live in a safe place. And Eric Adams was not amused by it. Let's watch.
Before and after you supported those refugees in Nashville, they had a zero.
The question, don't point at me and don't be disrespectful to me. I'm the mayor of this city, and treat me with the respect I deserve to be treated. I'm speaking to you as an adult. Don't stand in front like you treated someone that's on the plantation that you own.
Question that makes you uncomfortable. You could just weaponize race to shut her down. That's exactly what happened there.
So the basis of this story is the city's increasing rent. Now, guys, it's already expensive to be in New York City. It's already high enough living there. I mean, any type of, let's just say any type of raise in the amount of money that you have to pay, especially given all the inflation, everything that's going on in this country's economy, the fact that people are getting jobs, but yet they're only working maybe 12 hours a week. They have to get a second job to kind of supplant, help making ends meet. And quite frankly, that's not even helping either. You would obviously think that maybe there might be some pushback, especially against somebody who in reality can actually do something about this. Now, with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to this first set of clips here, about 3 minutes total. And yes, Cenk Uygur will find a way to make this entire thing worse. Just stick around for the full clip.
Ask you a question that makes you uncomfortable, you could just weaponize race to shut her down. That's exactly what happened there.
So this one has a little bit of nuance, not a lot. So the little bit of nuance is, yeah, it's true that a lot of times some folks talk down to minorities and they do it in a way that is grating on the nerves in every imaginable way. It's happened to me a little bit, but my God, I've seen it happen to black people in a way that is maddening, okay? So that's your context, and I get it. At the same time, when you become a representative of the people, you must be accountable to the people. And you can't just say, oh, okay, you've got a problem with rent. How dare you talk back to me? I deserve respect. Nah, okay. And to me, put aside the race thing for a second. The whole concept, and it is pervasive in America, that politicians deserve a lot of respect. I loathe it. I don't think they deserve that at all, at all. And I've seen people go into Congress and then all of a sudden say, I'm a congresswoman or I'm a congressman now. Who gives a damn? You're the same person, right? And they get this air about them like they're big deal. No, you're supposed to be a servant of the people. You're not supposed to lord over the people and be like, I am more powerful and I have more status than you. How dare you ask me an impertinent question and point your finger at me? No, we all get to point our fingers at the politicians and ask, why haven't you done your goddamn job? And are you kidding me? Like, you're getting upset about someone asking about rent being too high in New York City? I mean, how fragile is your ego? If you can't handle that, you shouldn't. You're not supposed to lord over the people and be like, I am more powerful and I have more status than you. How dare you ask me an impertinent question and point your finger at me? No, we all get to point our fingers at the politicians and ask, why haven't you done your goddamn job? And are you kidding me? Like, you're getting upset about someone asking about rent being too high in New York City? I mean, how fragile is your ego? If you can't handle that, you shouldn't be mayor of New York.
So he claims that, he has nothing to do with the decision that was made by the Rent Guidelines Board, that he has absolutely no say. I would venture to say that the mayor of the city could, apply some pressure and look out for the people of New York. But he claims, that hands off, I have no say in this whatsoever. That's his argument, he insists. Now, I do want to give you some numbers in regard to what Americans are dealing with when it comes to the housing crisis and the unaffordable nature of rent. So this is the highest percentage of New Yorkers facing an affordability crisis in the 23-year history of a study that was done. So according to the study, let's just go back and I'll give you the details on that. There was a study released in April that showed that half of all households in New York don't make enough money to cover basic needs like housing. Okay, so according to the analysis, this is the highest percentage of New Yorkers facing an affordability crisis in the 23-year history of the study, and also marks a significant degradation of life quality since 2021. when the organization's report found that 36% of working age households weren't making ends meet. Listen, people are working their asses off in this country, okay? Working overtime, long hours, barely making enough money to afford housing, okay? They did everything right, they followed all the rules, and they can't even afford to put a roof over their heads. Goddamn right they're angry. And for any politician, anyone who signed up for this, who ran to sit in the seat that Eric Adams is in right now, to deflect and immediately imply that someone is racist because she dare ask you a question in an aggressive way, I'll grant him that, in an aggressive way about this very real and serious issue, it's just infuriating. I'm sick of all of it, okay? I'm sick of these politicians who run for public office, run to be public servants, and end up being anything but.
Yeah, so.
Well, I do agree that politicians do need to take caution in their tone, especially when talking to constituents, because chances are this woman, who, by the way, like I said, 82-year-old Holocaust survivor, may have actually thought that it was wise to vote Democrat because apparently everybody on the right is a bunch of evil white racist, even though there's obviously some black people and Hispanics coming over to the right. Anybody who's, quite frankly, right of left center is automatically an evil white racist. That's kind of how they do things. But obviously these guys are correct in the sense that, yeah, politicians should not be talking to their constituents like this. They should not be using that power dynamic, which will come up a little bit more in this video. But Jink, of course, finds a way to make matters worse. You see, while Anna's trying to call this person out, what Jink fails to realize is that it's kind of been the MO of TYT to stoke racial divisions. It's been their way to bring up the whole race narrative when race relations were actually not that bad going into Obama's term. As a matter of fact, they were actually pretty good because we stopped talking about it. And then, of course, when Obama was in office, race relations just simply got worse because, well, they had to pound the drum of social justice. They've been pounding it really since 2008, if you actually think about it. It's just been much, much more pronounced, and it got really out of hand when Trump was in office because, obviously, liberals are crazy, they're insane, and they needed to come up with whatever false narratives they could to combat evil white racists, evil orange man, bad whatever. These people, this is how they operate. But this is kind of rich hearing some form of complaint from Jink. I have no idea why he's wording it this way. Is he doing this to undercut her? I mean, not trying to simp for her or anything, but Anna recently, especially on social issues, especially when it comes to crime and race, has kind of pivoted back a little bit more to the center. She's still got a long way to go, but she's starting to open her eyes to that. Now, she's still very, very much a leftist when it comes to the economy. However, I have a feeling with the last few takes that have came out with her, the last few takes that she has had, especially what's going on in California, the green energy policy, I have a feeling she's about to start moderating herself on that level too. She's not going to the right, she's not going to become a conservative or anything, but she's definitely beginning to actually open her eyes to the things that are going on around her. But yet, then again, though, at the same time, Jink has a way of making matters worse. But there's obviously more.
So look, a lot of times in my life, I have gotten either subtly or over the top overtly, you don't belong here, okay? So I know how that feels. I know exactly how that feels. So I have sympathy for that. But if you become an elected representative, you must represent those people. And you must take their criticism. Look, we do a talk show here, and we take your guys' criticism all the time, right? And we deal with it, and we explain it, we agree, we explain the parts we agree and disagree, etc. You can't go around saying, how dare you bring up a perfectly legitimate issue and a critique of me, and then hide behind any issue, but yes, including race. And you say, oh, you can't, what do you mean hide behind race? That's outrageous. What do you mean? You think Clarence Thomas didn't hide behind race? When he was accused credibly of sexual harassment, what did he do? The guy who denies that racism exists at all of a sudden called it a high-tech lynching. See, that's hiding behind your race. Okay, so it can happen and it does happen. And I think in this case, Eric Adams did do that.
Can we just, for a second, acknowledge the power dynamic in this exchange?
Yeah.
He's the mayor of New York City. Let's just consider that power dynamic. That's it, okay? I mean, we're not talking about some rich, privileged white woman who comes across an impoverished black person and yells at him for no reason. This is a powerful man. He is the mayor of the largest city in this country, and she has a legitimate concern and is representing a concern for countless New Yorkers. To brush her off as someone who just sounds like a plantation owner so you don't have to answer the question, pretty gross.
And he didn't, he never answered the question. And so, look, here, again, I'll use myself as an example, and it's not at all an exaggeration. I've literally had somebody grab me by the elbow and walk me out of a place saying you don't belong here, okay? So, having said that, if I become the mayor of New York City, I don't get to say that anymore because I have achieved a status of power, and my job is to use that power on behalf of all of the citizens and not to make excuses. And also context matters. Now let me give you the other side of the context. Every mayor of New York City is pointed at and yelled at. I mean, Eric Adams, who is actually a moderate to conservative Democrat, you want to see somebody getting yelled at, Bill de Blasio was yelled at. The former mayor of New York, who is a more progressive Democrat, was yelled at and pointed at 1,000 times, 10,000 times. So are mayors of New York yelled at? Hell yeah, they are. I mean, come on, it's comical. It's comical. It's New York City. If you can't handle a constituent and you won't answer a question and you come up with a lame excuse like that, that's embarrassing.
By the way, last week, Eric Adams vetoed a package of 4 bills by the New York City Council that would have expanded the city's rental voucher program. Maybe that's why he immediately went to the race card to essentially avoid having to answer any questions.
Now, guys, there are obviously things in that little take right there that I could chop up and just throw all over the place because let's just be honest, the people at TYT, it was their policies or the types of policies that they've been pitching for a long time, the narratives that they have pushed it kind of forced this attitude amongst people where now race is suddenly king. My race is more superior to yours. My race was done wrong by your race. Never mind the fact that Jews, of course, and I'm not trying to sound like a simp for Israel or anything, but let's just go ahead and be honest. They were enslaved by Pharaoh. They were enslaved by the Assyrians. They were enslaved by the Babylonians. There was the Holocaust. There were all the cruel things that Stalin did to them. I mean, and we haven't heard Jews scream about reparations here in the United States. They've been enslaved, by the way more times than that race that is right now crying over affirmative action being removed in colleges. But hey, look, it gets much there worse. Are some things in that take that I do agree with and some things that obviously I don't agree with. But I'm at least happy to see that Anna is kind of pivoting her way towards the center here on this issue to say, look, people are in fact suffering. But then again, though, at the same time, though, it's really the result of the type of policies that people at TYT have been pushing for a while. When Jink does the whole, you're not supposed to lure over people, I'm like, yes, that's correct. You're not supposed to do that. But then again, though, Jink, it was your network that kind of helped push this whole attitude of race is now king. Of course, my race is more important than yours. And of course, we're seeing the result of all this. By the way, with affirmative action getting removed in colleges, I think you're about to see the whole race rhetoric get absolutely amplified by at least 2,000. People obviously don't believe in merit. They believe that the color of their skin should actually matter when it comes to getting a job or anything, when in reality, it should be your actual resume. Look, about this whole thing with hours, people working a lot of hours, it's kind of what I mean, that a lot of people right now are taking on additional part-time jobs to cover the inflation. Inflation is way too damn high. When you look at the fact that New York is already expensive enough to live in, and you factor in that the rent is actually going up, the mayor could in fact put some pressure on the situation to kind of alleviate some of the burden, maybe even get these people to, I don't know, maybe get rid of this entire hike on rent. I mean, but then again, at the same time, though, these are also the same people who are bringing in migrants like absolute crazy, and of course, this is also diverting funds from actual New York City taxpayers to cover people who, quite frankly, should not be here. Thank you once again, progressives. Let me just go ahead and say this right here. I highly doubt that anybody has knocked Jink saying, you know what, man, you shouldn't be here because of this person's race. If anything, it's probably because of the insanity that Jink peddles. It's probably due to the fact that people recognize that he's an idiot. It's probably the fact that, oh, I don't know, the guy was raising hell at DFW Airport because, what was it, the plane was down, the plane had mechanical failures, and he's sitting here and he's screaming and hollering to board a plane that, quite frankly, has got mechanical issues. Talk about somebody who's definitely sane right there. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now that I think Jink is 100% full of crap, and I think that Anna is starting to get to the point where she's probably getting a little bit frustrated with the reality that the people at TYT helped to create. I mean, look, guys, this whole thing about, like I said before, my race has been wronged, and which, by the way, like I said, nobody's denying slavery. Nobody's denying that black people got a bad shake in this country, but at some point in time, you got to stop going on about it. At some point in time, you got to move forward. I mean, what was it? It was after the late 60s, race relations in the country, especially in the South, began to get a lot better, and this type of stuff was not brought up. It wasn't until Barack Obama got into office that the whole topic of race came back up, which, by the way, he helped the pump every single day. I mean, if you criticize Barack Hussein Obama, you were immediately called a racist, even if you had actually voted for him in the 2008 election. Basically, what's happened here is that Anna is seeing that as a result of networks like, say, TYT and progressive channels out there and progressive personalities, people like Sam Cedar and them, she's starting to see that obviously a little bit too much power was given to the wrong types of people. Eric Adams is the type of person that I felt would completely screw up the situation in New York and make it a lot worse. And I got friends of mine in New York who said to me, dude, you can't get any worse than Bill de Blasio, which, by the way, he was mentioned in the actual segment. I don't know if I included that or not, but still, Bill de Blasio, you couldn't get any worse than that, even though there was a guy by the name of David Dinkins who was pretty bad going into the late 80s and early 90s. Yes, it is about to get a lot worse in that city, especially given the economic situations, given the fact that, yes, rent's going through the roof, given the fact that inflation is rampant, given the fact that the city, for whatever reason, wants to put one of their chief economic jewels, which, by the way, or money makers, which, by the way, is pizza joints and small businesses. They're about to put a lot of these places out of business, which, by the way, is going to hurt tourism a lot because it's going to force people to pay for that extremely expensive New York restaurants instead of the good old-fashioned mom-and-pop shops, which people try to visit. And, of course, given Eric Adams' attitude, his smugness, especially towards somebody who, like I said before, was an 82-year-old Holocaust survivor, you guys can kind of see that the people at TYT have kind of created a monster. And, obviously, Anna is starting to see that they have created a monster through their own rhetoric. And, of course, the reality is not exactly shaping up the way it is actually was pitched to her in the beginning. Makes me almost wonder if maybe if she was duped into taking the job. But then again, though, there are other channels out there like, say, Sean Fitzgerald does a lot of great work on this. I mean, there's a lot. Nuance Bro does a lot of great work on them too. It makes me wonder if maybe she was duped into this ideology. But then again, though, she's a suburbanite, so at the same time, though, it's very possible that she may have always believed in this. But I'm starting to think to myself that maybe what happened was because of her being quote-unquote sheltered for the first 20 years or so of her life. I'm starting to believe that now that the bubble is starting to shrink and reality is starting to set in, I'm starting to think that Anna is starting to have at least a change of heart on some of these issues, as I have said in previous videos. Jink, on the other hand, is still very, very much an idiot, so he's more than likely never going to change. With that right there being said, guys, JohnClaymore here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. If you feel that I've earned your subscription, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Have you guys a happy 4th of July. There will be no video out on the 4th of July. I'll be back on Wednesday with content, ready to go, ready to rock, and all that type of stuff there. However, there will be another video out on Gear Issue 33, my backup channel, Short Time Prepping. I'll leave a link in the description box for you guys. Of course, there's also going to be updates videos coming out this week on that channel to go ahead and start launching the brand new content, which we're going to start the transition over there first. And to go on top of this, there's also going to be a couple more videos out that I'm going to be making tonight to put out over the course of the week, because a lot of things happen over the weekend that, quite frankly, are going to be relevant going forward. So make sure you guys stick around with that right there. So once again, guys, make sure you guys hit that like button. If you feel that I've earned your subscription, please hit the subscribe button. Notifications bell. Please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to get you guys' thoughts. And I'll see you guys later.